Hey friends. So I had a lesson with Madeline today, which as usual was amazing. And it's interesting because I had been reflecting on something for about the last 24 hours or so that I was thinking about doing my post on, and it was just kind of something that was surfacing in my awareness. That I wanted to address, and then it actually it didn't come up in my lesson, but my lesson, another thing came up. Madeline kind of emphasized something which ended up being very related, and so I'm kind of stitching these things together today. But basically, the thing that I was reflecting on was a feeling of having a hard time letting myself be taken care of, be cared for, and be taken care of by other people, by someone else. And there's something in this that I really think is pretty deep, because it's a feeling I'm familiar with. And I, in a weird way, I sense that my autonomy is actually being limited by the fact that I have a hard time letting myself be taken care of, that I have a hard time allowing myself to trust that I'll be taken care of, or if someone else is taking care of me in any way, emotionally, financially, whatever, that I have a hard time being okay with that support. I want to be self-sufficient. And so and the irony is, I have a long history of a lot of wonderful people taking care of me. Starting with my parents, and there's a whole list of people who have been in some way either partially responsible for me or have just have exerted a membrane of care that has carried me and supported me. And so when I find this feeling in myself, it's almost kind of weird. It's almost kind of like, what? How could that even be the case? But I think there's this part of myself, and I can maybe find elements in my background, but more than anything, I think it's a subconscious backdrop in other words, there may be some of this in my parents or my family or close ones that have this sense of, we have trouble being taken care of. We have trouble being comfortable with that. It's not anything that I've ever received a sort of like direct message about. It's like between the lines. I think it's been written between the lines. And again, it's ironic because in the context of a very, privileged and cared for life, you'd think I would have gotten over that or somehow, realized it was okay or been okay with it. But it's almost like there's a baked in imperative to be autonomous, stand on your own. Maybe also there's probably a cultural element to this too, now that I think about it. There's an element in American society American culture in general, that really kind of privileges that, prioritizes that, respects that. So as I identify in myself this kind of hesitation at being taken care of, I actually think that if I can get okay with that, my autonomy will increase. my ability to take care of myself and to be more self-sufficient, to feel even more empowered, will actually increase. Because there's some arbitrary rule about how that has to look and how I have to be I need to be getting a certain result or displaying a certain kind of behavior. There's a pattern there. So that was kind of the opening salvo of what I was feeling over the last 24 hours, and looking at that and just kind of being conscious of it in a way, because again, if it's a limitation, why would I want it? Why would I want to live with that? Why would I want that to stay the same, right? If anytime we experience a limitation and it becomes a conscious thing, like the other day, am I allowed to have this power? The thought bubbles up on the surface of my awareness. I did a post on this a day or two ago. It's like, whoa, well, now that I can see you, I think I'm gonna look at you. I think I'm gonna take a close look here. Because why would I want that in there? Why would I want that limiting belief in there going up the works? And the way that this relates to my lesson with Madeline, which was really kind of focused on mostly on other things today, but towards the end of the lesson, she said, I played part of the Mozart sonata, and it felt somewhat it was both the Mozart and a Chopin piece that I was playing, and there's a brittleness to it, and what she said was, my goal with you is to help you connect to your expressive center. And it related in the sense that it related to what I'm talking about in the kind of overall sense, in that there's a softness that expressiveness requires. I felt it immediately in this lesson. We did a thing where I played the fingering of the piece on my arm. Actually played a couple phrases on my arm. So I'm feeling not just my hand making the gesture of the music, but I'm feeling the imprint that my active hand is making on the keyboard. Well, then I put my hand back on the keyboard, and all of a sudden there's a whole different feel going on there, because it's like I'm feeling into the instrument in a way. But the moral of the story there is softness. There's a softness required in order for real expressiveness to happen. And softness is sort of inherently receptive, right? It's an inherently receptive kind of yin energy state. And being taken care of is a receptive state. There's a softness there. I'm not going out and doing it for myself, taking care of myself. I'm allowing myself to be taken care of. And so if I'm in other words, resistance to that softness is kind of one and the same in whatever dimension that it surfaces. And so I just found that interesting, that right towards the end of the lesson, Madeline said something about this, and the penny didn't really drop until I was off the lesson, and I was getting ready to do this post, and I was reflecting on the the sense that I've had, that I have a resistance to being taken care of. And then it kind of stitched itself together into, oh, this is actually kind of one thing. So looked at from a strictly kind of energetic point of view, this is a pretty familiar thing for me. Allowing softness in, allowing myself to be soft. I know that that's a challenge. I know that that's something that I've struggled with in the past. And so I'm just bringing some attention back there. And, hopefully really allowing myself to be taken care of. I mean, ultimately, whether we're aware of it or not, we're being taken care of. That's the funny thing. It's happening. I am being taken care of, whether or not I believe I am, or no matter how much I think I'm like out there independently doing this. No matter how much our ego might think that or be attached to that, or it's always the case that the universe is literally caring for us in every moment, taking care of us in every moment. So the whole fixation is an illusion, or it's an attachment to an illusion. And it reminds me in a way of the softness Madeline's been emphasizing on the piano as well. You can't play every note the same volume. You need moments of strength and power, and then we need moments of total softness in between, because a really fast series of notes has to have that breath. It has to have those accented points, and then it's like the pins in the wall that the lights are draped from. Not every light is on a pin. The lights have a drape. There's a wave to them. And if we don't have that softness, then it becomes impossible to play. Life is exactly the same. If we don't have those moments of release, well, then how are we going to maintain that strength? It's an illusion that strength is always contracted. It's got its tension and release. Tension and release. So I guess that principle is just coming up for me in a new way. So thanks for watching, people. Appreciate you. Much love. I'll see you tomorrow.